Remember when the war with Iraq was starting up and all the guys over at CNN were saying, ooh, Saddam Hussein has Russian-made MiG fighter planes. And ooh, Saddam Hussein has these crack fighting troops, the Republican Guard. And ooh, it could take years to win a desert war. And then 1 week later, it was like, well, yes, we are leading 89-0 at halftime, but he might make a comeback. See, I'm convinced that the reason we blew all their planes out of the sky in about 48 hours was that everybody was still all juiced up from watching Top Gun. This is the real thing, gentlemen. This is what you've been trained for. Make us proud. Because all the guys who were in Top Gun training by that time had seen the movie. That's why they joined up in the first place. Either that movie or An Officer and a Gentleman, the two greatest recruiting films for the Navy in movie history. Anyway, here's my point. Oh, well, Leon, welcome.
Didn't recognize me at first?
Wasn't your hair completely white just a week ago?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, my point is that when this movie came out, you couldn't tell for sure who the enemy was. The enemy planes had a big red star on the side, but a lot of critics said, oh, those are obviously Libyan planes. And other critics said, obviously Russians. And others said, obviously Cubans.
The Navy wanted it that way.
Well, thank you, Leon, for that comment, but since when did you take an interest in the actual making of a film?
Don Simpson produced it, a very good friend of mine.
You knew Don Simpson?
I was first alternate pallbearer at his funeral.
Wow, right up there with Jeffrey Katzenberg and Jerry Bruckheimer?
That's right, alternate pallbearer. I was there in case one of those Hollywood types couldn't handle it.
Leon, you're the ultimate Hollywood type.
Thank you. That's why I worship Don Simpson.
Leon, don't you know that most people consider Don Simpson a symbol of the dark side of Hollywood, a world of Ferraris and hot tubs and shallow, meaningless lives?
Your point?
You said you worshipped Don Simpson?
It wasn't about hot tubs, Joe Bob. Frankly, I'm a little tired about all this hot tub prejudice.
I'm not judging the hot tubs.
It's about the work, Joe Bob. You'd be well advised to watch this movie. Follow Don's example. Watch the movie. It's genius.
I've seen this movie.
I rest my case.
Did you really know Don Simpson?
We were like that. Until he decided I was worshiping the devil and beaming toxic rays at his house.
I see.
But that was later. He really was such a nice guy. Sincere.
I have a question. If the pilot's mask is hanging off the side of his face like that, how can the other pilots hear him? How can the guy in the back seat hear him, for that matter?
It's a motion picture, pal.
I know it's a motion picture, but it's supposed to be all approved by the Navy.
Yeah, it's amazing what the Navy will do when you slide a little green across the table.
You're saying they paid the Navy?
Big bucks, ching-ching, anchors away.
All right, here's another question. Why do they allow Tom Cruise to sing You've Lost That Loving Feeling to Kelly McGillis? Because first of all, she never had that loving feeling to begin with, and secondly, the song is 20 years old at the time of this movie. It's 1986. Why aren't they grooving to Whitesnake or something?
I am familiar with every aspect of this movie. The soundtrack of this movie sold 2 million albums in 10 weeks. It's the 8th all-time best-selling soundtrack in motion picture history.
Okay, but I'm just saying, why these songs? They've got Righteous Brothers, Otis Redding, Jerry Lee Lewis. These are the songs of the hippie era, the pre-hippie era, people that hated war. And even that hit song, you know, the love song.
Take My Breath Away.
Take My Breath Away. Yeah, it's softcore, adult, contemporary, 60s pablum song in 1986.
The whole movie is a music video. That was the concept, fast airplanes, flyboys, and music.
Leon, okay, listen to me. Why not choose music that goes with war? Barry Sadler, Ballad of the Green Beret. I love that song. That song would fit the movie.
I don't know what you're talking about.
And I don't know what you're talking about.
Is there an echo in here? Are we in the Alps? $176 million, that's what I'm talking about, on a $12 million budget.
You really did know Don Simpson, didn't you?
39th grossing movie of all time. Val Kilmer didn't want to make it. Don had a strong arm. Used lawyers.
You just love the art of cinema, don't you, Leon?
Kelly McGillis was no picnic either. Actually, she was a picnic. She likes swarming ants.
We'll be back with Joe Bob's Hollywood Saturday Night and Top Gun after these messages.
Let me get this straight. This whole movie is about who wins the trophy at flight school? They don't give out a trophy at Top Gun school. And since when do they have classes that meet on the runway, on the tarmac, in little high school chairs? Wouldn't the Top Gun school have some kind of super sophisticated classroom with computer screens and stuff?
Joe Bob, many films have you produced?
What are you talking about?
Don Simpson and Jerry Bruckheimer had Flashdance, Beverly Hills Cop, Top Gun, Crimson Tide.
Well, I can understand you're defending your friend, Leon.
Your credits? It's not a matter of friendship, Joe Bob. You don't understand how this business works.
Leon, look, I'm trying to believe this movie. I like this movie, but Navy flyers don't rip their masks off when they're flying. And they don't go like this. When an enemy plane goes by, you know that thing? And they don't say, well, that Maverick, he almost kills people every time he goes up and he disobeys orders, but damn, is he good. You know, they don't say that.
Joe Bob, this is not war. This is disco war. This is entertainment.
I know, that's my point. The whole thing is based around trying to win a trophy.
So?
So it's like playing wiffle ball. It doesn't mean anything.
Do you know how many Top Gun videos were sold in Mexico alone? This is the first sell-through video.
Oh, forget it.
This is a great story, Joe Bob.
Yeah, it is. It's a great story, and it's ripped off from Wings of the Navy and Devil Dogs of the Air and Ceiling Zero and about 19 other flying movies, most of them starring James Cagney, many of them directed by Howard Hawks. But then the pilot had a drinking problem, and he has to sober up and fly right, and both of the competing pilots are trying to get the same girl. They don't even get that part of the story right.
So, what's your point?
Leon, my point is that these guys do look good in their designer flight suits, okay? And by the way, the Navy doesn't have helmets like that. Those are the helmets of a Bolivian race car driver.
Let me put it this way, Joe Bob. This movie has everything. The style of Flashdance and the soul of Rambo.
That's my point.
That's my point.
That scene in the elevator was filmed after the rest of the movie was completed. They added it because they wanted more of a love interest between Tom Cruise and Kelly McGillis, who did not particularly like each other while filming was going on. But I have a question. What kind of a wuss gets all sweaty with the boys and then goes over to Kelly's house and says, can I take a shower, and does take a shower, and then leaves?
What are you implying?
I'm kidding.
Oh.
But did you know that your friend Don Simpson used to brag that he evaded the military draft by intentionally crashing his motorcycle?
God, I miss him.
We'll be back with Joe Bob's Hollywood Saturday Night and Top Gun after these messages.
Best thing about this movie is that aerial footage. Dang, is that good. Those are F-14 Tomcats, which have a top speed of 1,563 miles an hour. Is that your favorite part of the movie, Leon?
My favorite merchandising tie-in was the Top Gun roller coaster, which was installed at several Paramount theme parks around this country.
Leon, did you ever actually watch this movie?
Did you know that Top Gun is still to this day Paramount's top-selling video?
Hello, Leon!
Yes, I love the movie. I gotta go.
This is the best part coming up. How can you go? It's 2 weeks to graduation.
I got a little Thanksgiving get-together over at Tommy Lasorda's house. Pasta stuffing, I love it.
You like sports?
Networking, Joe Bob. You should try a little of that yourself.
Well, I will. If I ever want to play second base for the Dodgers, I'll try networking at Tommy Lasorda's house.
Let me give you some advice, Joe Bob. You're not going to understand this picture until you understand two words: marketing tie-in.
Thank you, Leon. What would I do without you?
You'd be the most talented carnival ride operator at Six Flags Magic Mountain.
Good night, Leon.
Remember, Joe Bob, it's all about the work.
Thank you, Leon.
Thank you.
We'll be back with Joe Bob's Hollywood Saturday Night and Top Gun after these messages.
Well, you know, if a guy has a deliriously happy marriage, he's a goner, right? It's a rule of movie making. So Anthony Edwards, who was the highest paid dramatic actor on TV, $400,000 an episode on ER, Eric LaSalle actually recently pulled slightly ahead of him, but Anthony Edwards, in the role where he was first really discovered, buys the farm when he ejects but hits the canopy, which is actually impossible because the ejection system in an F-14 Tomcat doesn't work that way. But what's truly tragic about that scene is that the stunt pilot had to actually put one of those planes into an inverted flat spin, and he did not recover from the inverted flat spin. Art Scholl died doing that scene, 53 years old. He flew planes in over 100 films beginning in 1959 and was totally ignored, by the way, when the reviews of the movie came out. I have no idea why. All right, let's watch a few commercials, see a little bit more Meg Ryan in the role that also got her noticed, even though she only worked 2 days on this movie, and then we'll continue. Will this break Tom Cruise's spirit? Will he never be able to fly again? What suspense, right? Man, they're milking this thing, aren't they? Tom Skerritt says, well, it's up to you, Maverick, but your old man did the right thing, blah, blah, blah. Gazes out at the runway, meets his girlfriend in the bar. She's leaving. Why exactly does she leave? Why does she have to go to Washington? I didn't get that part. Will Tom Cruise ever fly again? Guess not. Movie's probably over, isn't it? But while we're waiting to find out, how did I know that the TNT mail girl was, oh man, she was on her way over here to help us out with the little segment we call Joe Bob's Advice to the Hopeless. And Rusty, you flew planes for the Air Force. Captain Rusty. And thank you for wearing your Air Force uniform here tonight. Why are there no women in this Top Gun class?
I don't know, because there have been women fighter pilots. Let's read this letter. It's from Seaman Jackson of Brunswick, Ohio.
What Jackson?
Seaman Jackson.
Seaman Jackson, okay. Dear Joe Bob, my fellow shipmates and I, hence Seaman Jackson, would like to express our anger at all of these lame sea movies Hollywood is coming out with. I mean, Speed 2 was a joke, and Under Siege was a hoax, and Top Gun was nothing but a bunch of flying pansies. Why can't they show a film about us blowing the garbanzos out of some country, or how we drink a lot and beat up people while we're in port? You know, it's true. There's very little drinking in this movie. There's very little fisticuffs in this movie. Well, at least I know you are on our side. Sincerely, J. Jackson, Seaman J. Jackson, Brunswick, Ohio. Well, what do you say, Rusty? You're a battle-tested Air Force veteran. What kind of plane was that you flew in Desert Storm for General Schwarzkopf?
It was the C-21A.
Yeah, so based on your experience, is this film accurate?
Well, I love this movie.
Yeah, that's not what I asked you.
Well, they take a little license.
You seem to have a confidence problem, Captain, in your attitude answering these questions.
No, sir. It's not that accurate, sir.
It's more like it. Well, the movie seems finished right there, doesn't it? But it isn't. But isn't that a little creepy when he flings Goose's dog tags into the ocean? Like he never existed? Like, sorry, Goose, the movie's over now. Have to move on. And what about that big manly hug between Tom Cruise and Val Kilmer? What happens at the emotional high point of this movie? I can't leave ice. Not, I can't leave Kelly McGillis. What's the real love story here, you know? And by the way, there is no MiG-28. That plane doesn't exist. All those enemy planes were F-5 Tiger IIs. This is the movie that brought back military flag waving. The first movie in years that didn't have a vet in a wheelchair, didn't have a hippie in it, didn't have any MASH-type dopers, didn't have a crazy Rambo guy, just good, clean village people flying fast planes against a faceless enemy, like a football game. Rah, rah, rah. So anyway, it's not over. We'll see what else happens, and then we'll move right into The Exorcist right after this. This movie is directed by Tony Scott, the other Scott brother. Top Gun is the movie that made Tony Scott. Before that, he couldn't get arrested because he had that much more famous older brother, Ridley Scott. See, Tony does happy endings. Ridley, he does endings where women drive cars off the cliff, right? The world comes to an end at the end of Ridley Scott movies like in Blade Runner, but Tony is like, yee-haw, let's party.